Hello aspirants. Today I am here to talking about you 2016 prelim questions paper 2. So first reading and comprehension passage 1. According to the lack of it in governance generally and civil services in particular, in a major factor underlying the deficiencies in governance and public administrations. Designing and effecting frameworks for accountability has been a key element of the reform agenda. A fundamental issue is whether civil services should be accountable to the political executives of the day or to society at large. So, how to understand these portions? We need to slowly reading and understanding every and each and every line. So, there was no problem in after. In other words, how should internal and external accountability be reconciled? Internal accountability is sought to be achieved by internal performance monitoring, official supervisions by bodies like the Central Vigilance Commissions and Comptroller and Auditor Generals, and judicial review of executives' decisions. Article 311 and 312 of the Indian Constitution provide job security and safeguard to the civil services. So this portion also very relevant and very important, especially the all India services. The framers of the constitution had envisaged that provisions of these safeguards would result in a civil service that is not totally subservient to the political executives but will have the strength to functions in larger public interests. The need to balance internal and external accountability is thus built into the constitutions. The issue is where to draw the line. Over the years, the emphasis seems to have tilted in favor of greater internal accountability of the civil services to the political leaders of the day, who in turn are expected to be externally accountable to the society at large through the election process. The systems for seeking accountability society has not worked out and has led to several adverse consequences for governance. Some special measures can be considered for improving accountability in civil services. Provisions of Article 311 and 312 should be reviewed, and laws and regulations framed to ensure external accountability of civil services. The proposed Civil Services Bill seek to address some of these requirements. The respective rules of professional civil services and the political executives should be defined so that professional managerial functions and managements of civil services are depoliticized. For these purposes, effective statutory civil service boards should be created at the center and in the states. Decentralizations and devolutions of authority to bring governments and decisions making close to the peoples also help to enhance accountability. So, what is the discussions in this paragraph? This paragraph is very important, not just for prelims point of view. It is a documents for our positions. We also become sometime later we also become IAS IPS officer. Then this was uh, coming into our exposures. So first question is, according to the passage, which of the following factors had to be adverse consequences for government's public administrations? Inability of civil services to strike a balance between internal and external accountability, lack of sufficient professionals training to the officers of all India services, lack of proper service benefits in the civil services, lack of constitutional provisions to define the respective roles of professional civil services vis-a-vis political executives in the context. See the correct answer is the course given below. So answer is C, 1 and 4. That means inability of civil services to strike a balance between internal and external accountability. lack of constitutional provisions to define the respective roles of professional civil services vis-a-vis political executive in this context. So, question number 2. With reference to the passage, the following assumptions have occurred made. 1. Political executive is an obstacle to the accountability of the civil service to the society. In the present framework of India polity, the political executives is no longer accountable to the society. Which of these assumption is a valid? So answer is A. That means one only. Political executive is a obstacles to the accountability of the civil services to the society. So we go next questions. Which one of the following is the essentials message implied by this passage? Civil services are not accountable to the society. They are serving educated and enlightened persons are not taking up political leaderships. The framers of the constitutions did not envisage the problems being encountered by the civil services. There is a needs and scope for reforms to improve the accountability of civil services. This question answer is very easy. Answer is E. Question number 4. According to the passage, which one of the following is not a means of enhancing internal accountability of civil services? Better job security and safeguards, supervisions by central vigilance commissions, judicial review of executive decisions, seeking accountability through enhanced participations by people in decisions making process. So question number 4 answer is also D. This is not enhancing internal accountability of civil services. Sir, we go for passage 2. In general, religious traditions stress our duty to God or to some universal ethical principles. Our duties to one another derive from this. The religious concepts of rights is primarily derived from our relationship to this divinity or principles and the implications it has on our other relationships. This correspondence between rights and justice is critical to any further understandings of justice. But for justice to be practiced, virtue, rights, and duties cannot remain formal obstructions. They must be grounded in a common unity, bound together by a sense of communion, even as a personal virtue. This solidarity is essential to the practice and understanding of justice. So this passage is very clear, and so with reference to the passage, the following assumptions have been made. First assumptions: human relationships are divided from their religious traditions. Human beings can be duty bound only if they believe in gods. Religious traditions are essential to practice and understand justice. Which of these statement assumptions are valid? So question number 5 answer is 1. One only. Human relations are derived from their religious traditions. Question number 6. So which one of the following is the crux of the passage? Crux of this passage. First option, our duties to one another derive from our religious traditions. Having relationships to the divine principle is a great virtue. Balance between rights and duties is crucial to the delivery of justice in the society. Religious concepts of right is primarily derived from our relationships to gods. So question number 6 is very important. Answer is C. Balance between rights and duties is crucial to the delivery of justice in a society. So we go for next questions. Today we discuss 17 passages and 27 questions. Next passage is biomass as fuel for power, heat and transports has the highest mitigations potentials of all renewable sources. It comes from agricultures and forest residue as well as from energy crops. The biggest challenge in using the biomass residue is a long-term reliable supply delivery to the power plants at reasonable cost. The key problems are logistical constraints and the cost of fuels collections. Energy crops, if not managed properly, compete with food productions and may have undesirable impacts on food prices. Biomass productions is also sensitive to the physical impacts of a changing climates. So this is one portion. So I'm going to second portions. Projections of the future role of biomass are probably overestimated, given the limits to the sustainable biomass supply. Unless breakthrough technology substantially increase productivity, climate energy models projects that the biomass use could increase nearly fourfold to around 150 to 200 exajoules, almost a quarter of world primary energy in 2050. However, the maximum sustainable technical potentials of biomass resources, both residues and energy crops, without disruptions of foods and forest resources, ranges from 80 to 170 exajoules a year by 2050, and only part of this is realistically and economically feasible. In addition, some climate models rely on biomass based carbon captures and storage, and approved and unproven technology to achieve negative emissions and to buy some time during the first half of the century. This portion is over. Now new portion is some liquids biofuels such as corn-based ethanol, mainly for transports, may aggravate rather than ameliorates carbon emissions on a life cycle's basics basis. Second generations biofuels based on lignocellulosic feedstocks such as straw, bagaces, grass, and woods hold the promise of sustainable productions that is high yielding and emit low levels of greenhouse gas, but these are still in the research and development stage. So we have the questions. What is are the present constraints in using biomass as fuel for power generations? Lack of sustainable supply of biomass productions competes with food productions. Bioenergy may not always be low carbons on a life cycle basis. Let the correct answer is the course given below. So question number 21 answer is D. 1, 2 and 3. All option is correct. Question number 22. Which of the following can lead to food security problem? Using agriculturals and sorry using agriculturals and forest residue as feedstocks for power generations, using biomass for carbon captures and storage, promoting the cultivations of energy crops. Select the correct answer with the codes given below. So question number 22 answer is B, 3 only. That means promoting the cultivation of energy crops. We have next question. In the context of using biomass, which of the following is are the characteristics of the sustainable productions of biofuels? Biomass as a fuel for power generations could meet all the primary energy requirements of the world by 2050. Biomass as a fuel for power generations does not necessarily disrupt food and forest resources. Biomass as a fuel for power generations could help in achieving negative emissions given certain nascent technologies. Let the correct answer in the course given below. So question number 23 answer is C, 2 and 3. That means this two option is correct. Question number 24. With reference to the passage following assumptions have been made. Some climate energy models suggest that the use of biomass as a fuel for power generations help in mitigating greenhouse gas emissions. It is not possible to use biomass as a fuel for power generations without disturbing food and forest resources. Which of the assumption is are correct? So question number 24 answer is very easy. Answer is A only. That is, some climate energy models suggest that use of biomass as a fuel for power generations helps in mitigating greenhouse gas emission. Our next passage is, we are witnessing a dangerous dwindling of biodiversity in our food supply. The green revolution is a mixed blessing. Over time, farmers have come to rely heavily on broadly adopted high yield crops to the exclusion of varieties adapted to the local conditions. Monocropping vast fields with the same genetically uniform seeds help boost yield and meet immediate hunger needs. Yet high yields varieties are also genetically weaker crops that requires expensive chemicals, fertilizers and toxic pesticides. In our occur on increasing the amounts of food we produce today, we have accidentally put ourselves at risk for food shortage in futures. So this passage was only about future food shortage. So which among the following is the most logical and critical inference that can be made from the above passage? In our agricultural practices, we have become heavily dependent on expensive chemicals, fertilizers, and toxic pesticides only due to green revolutions. Monocropping vast fields with the high yields varieties is possible due to green revolutions. Monocropping with the high yield varieties is the only way to ensure food security to millions. Green revolutions can pose a threat to biodiversity in food supply and food security in the long run. So question number 25 answer is D. Green revolutions can pose a threat to biodiversity in food supply and food security in the long run. The crux. So we go to next passage. 2016 passage was very uh, small number. Another passage. By killing transparency and competitions, crony capitalism is harmful to free enterprise, opportunities and economic growth. Crony capitalism, so where rich and the influentials are alleged to have received lands and natural resources and various licenses in return for payoff to venal payoff to venal politicians is now a major issue to be tackled. One of the greatest dangers to growth of developing economies like India is the middle income trap, where crony capitalism creates oligarchies that slow down the growth. Which among the following is the most logical corollary to the above passage? Launching more welfare schemes and allocating more finances for the current schemes are urgently needed. Effort should be made to push up economic growth by other means and provide licenses to the poor. Greater transparency in the functionings of the governments and promoting the financial inclusions are needed at present. We should concentrate more on developing manufacturing sectors than service sectors. So question number 41 answer is C. Greater transparency in the functioning of the governments and promoting the financial inclusions are needed at present. We have next passage. Climate adaptations may be rendered ineffective if policies are not designed in the context of other development concerns. For instance, a comprehensive strategy that seeks to improve food security in the context of climate change may include a set of coordinated measures related to agricultural extensions, crop diversifications, integrated water and pest management, and agricultural information services. Some of these measures may have to do with climate change and the other with economic developments. So, what is the most logical and rational inference that can be made from the above passage? It is difficult to pursue climate adaptations in the developing countries. Improving food security is a far more complex issue than climate adaptations. Every developmental activity is directly or indirectly linked to climate adaptations. Climate adaptations should be examined in tandem with other economic developments options. So, question number 42. Answer is D. Climate adaptation should be examined in tandem with other economic development options. We go for passage 3. Understanding of the role of biodiversity in the hydrological cycle enables better policy making. The term biodiversity refers to the variety of plants, animals, microorganisms, and the ecosystems in which they occur. Water and biodiversity are interdependent in reality. The hydrological cycles decides how biodiversity functions. In term, vegetations and soil drive the movements of waters. Every glass of water we drink has, at least in part, passed through fish, trees, bacteria, soils, and other organisms. Passing through these ecosystems, it is cleansed and made fit for consumptions. The supply of water is a critical service that the environment provides. Which among the following is the most critical inference that can be made from the above passage? Biodiversity sustains the ability to nature to recycle waters. We cannot get potable water without the existence of living organisms. Plant, animals, and microorganisms continuously interacts among themselves. Living organisms should not have come into existence without a hydrological cycle. So question number 43, answer is very easy. Answer is A. Biodiversity sustains the ability of nature to recycle water. Passage 4. In the last decade, the banking sector has been restructured with a high degree of automations and products that mainly serves middle class and upper middle class society. Today, there is a need for a new agenda for the banking and non-banking financial services that does not exclude the common man. Which one of the following is the passage that is essentially implied in the above passage? So, option number one, need for more automations and more products of banks, need for a radical restructuring of our entire public finance systems, need to integrate banking and non-banking institutions, need to promote financial inclusions. So, question number 44, answer is D, need to promote financial inclusions. Passage 5, safe and sustainable sanitations in slums has immeasurable benefits to women and girls in terms of their health, safety, privacy, and dignity. However, women do not feature to most of the schemes and policies on urban sanitations. The fact that even now the manual scavenging exists only goes to show that not enough has been done to promote code flush toilets and discontinue the use of dry latrines. A more sustained and rigorous campaigns need to be launched towards the right to sanitations on a very large scale. These should primarily focus on the abolition of manual scavenging. So, with reference to the above passage, consider the following statements. Urban sanitation problems can be fully solved by the abolition of manual scavenging only. There is a need to promote greater awareness on safe sanitation practices in urban areas. Which of statement given is correct? So question number 45. Answer is very easy. Answer is D, 2 only. That means there is a need to promote greater awareness on the sanitation practices in urban areas. Which of the uh, this is the statements. To understand the nature and quality of government proper for man, it is necessary to attend to his characters, as nature created him for social life. She fitted him for the stations she intended in all cases. She made his natural wants greater than his individual powers. No one man is capable, without the aid of society, of supplying his own wants, and those wants acting upon every individual's impel the whole of them into society. Which among the following is the most logical and rational inference that can be made from the above passage? So, option 1, nature has created a great diversity in human society. Any given human society is always short of its wants. Social life is a specific characteristic of man. Diverse natural wants forced man towards social systems. So question number 46 answer is D. Diverse naturals want forced man towards social systems. The nature of the legal imperatives in any given states corresponds to the effective demands that states encounters, and that these in their turn depends in a general way upon the manner in which economic power is distributed in the society which the state controls. The statements refers to the antithesis of politics of economics, the interrelationships of politics and economics, the predominance of economics and over politics, the predominance dominance of politics over economics. So question number 47 answer is B, the interrelations of politics and economics. That is, we go for next passage. About 15% of global's greenhouse gas emissions come from agricultural factories. This includes nitrous oxide from fertilizers, methane from livestock, rice productions and manure storage, and carbon dioxide CO2 from burning biomass. But this excludes CO2 emissions from soil management practices, savanna burning and deforestation. Forestry land use and land use change account for another 17% of greenhouse gas emissions each year, three-quarter of which come from tropical deforestation. The remainder is largely from draining and burning tropical peatlands. About the same amount of carbon is stored in the world's peatlands as is stored in the Amazon rainforest. So, which among the following is the most logical and rational inference that can be made from the above passage? Organic farming should immediately replace mechanized and chemicals dependent agriculture practices all over the world. It is imperative for us to modify our land use practices in order to mitigate climate change. There are two technological solutions to the problems of greenhouse gas emissions. Tropical area are the cheap sites of carbon sequestrations. So question number 48 answer is very easy. Answer is B. It is a imperatives for to modify our lands use practices in order to mitigate climate change. There we go to next questions. Next passage is here. As we look to 2050, when we will need to feed 2 billion more people, The questions of which diet is best has taken on new urgency. The food we choose to eat in the coming decades will have dramatic ramifications for the planet. Simply puts, a diet that revolves around meat and dairy, a way of eating that is on the rise throughout the developing world, will take a greater toll on the world's resources than one that revolves around unrefined grains, nuts, fruits, and vegetables. What is the critical message conveyed by above passage? Our increasing demand for food sources from animals puts a greater burden on our natural resources. Diet based on grains, nuts, fruits, and vegetables are best suited for health in developing countries. Human beings change their food habits from time to time, irrespective of the health concerns. From a global perspective, we still do not know which types of diet is best for us. So, question number 64. Answer is very easy. Answer is A. Our increasing demand for food sources from animals puts a greater burden on our natural resources. Passage 2. All humans digest mother's milk as infants, but until cattle began being domesticated 10,000 years ago, children once weren't no longer needed to digest milk. As a result, they stopped making the enzymes lactase, which breaks down the sugar lactose into simple sugars. After humans began herding cattle, it's become tremendously advantageous to digest milk, and lactose tolerance evolves independently among cattle herders in Europe, the Middle East, and Africa. Groups not dependent on cattle, such as the Chinese and Thai, remains lactose tolerant. Which of the following is the most logical assumptions that can be made from the above passage? About 10,000 years ago, the domestications of animals took place in some parts of the world. A permanent change in the food habits of a community can bring about a genetic change in its members. Lactose tolerant peoples only are capable of getting simple sugars in their bodies. People who are not lactose tolerant cannot digest any dirty products. So, question number 65 answer is B. A permanent change in the food habits of a community can bring about a genetic changes in the its members. So, passage 3. The conceptual difficulties in national income comparisons between underdeveloped and individualized industrialized countries are particularly serious because a part of the national outputs in various underdeveloped countries is produced without passing through the commercial channels. In the above statements, the author implies that the entire national's outputs produced and consumed in industrialized countries passing through commercial channels. The existence of non-commercial sectors in different underdeveloped countries renders the national's income comparisons over countries difficult. No part of national's output should be produced and consumed without passing through commercial channels. A part of the national's outputs being produced and consumed without passing through commercial channels is a sign of underdevelopment. So, question number 66 answer is B. The existence of a non commercialized sectors in different underdeveloped countries render the national's income comparisons over countries difficult. We go for next passage. An increase in human made carbon dioxides on the atmosphere could initiate a chain reactions between plants and microorganisms that would unsettles one of the largest carbon reservoirs on the planet soils. In a study, it was found that The soils which contains twice the amounts of carbon present in all plants and earth atmospheric combines would become increasingly volatile as peoples add more carbon dioxide to the atmosphere. This is largely because of increased plants growth. Although a greenhouse gas and a pollutant, carbon dioxide also support plant growth as trees and other vegetations flourish in a carbon dioxide rich future. Their roots could stimulate microbial activity in soils that may in turn accelerate the decompositions of soils carbon and its release into the atmosphere as carbon dioxide. Which among the following is the most logical corollary to the above passage? Carbon dioxide is essential for the survival of microorganisms and plants. Humans are solely responsible for the release of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. Microorganisms and soil carbon are mainly responsible for the increased plant growth. Increasing green covers could trigger the release of carbon trapped in soils. So question number 67 answer is D. Increasing green cover would trigger the release of carbon trapped in soil. Historically, the biggest challenge to world agriculture has been a achieve a balance between demand for and supply of foods at the level of individual countries. The demand supply balance The demand supply balance can be a critical policy issue for a closed economy, especially if it is a populous economy and its domestic agriculture is not growing sufficiently enough to ensure food supply. On an enduring basis, it is not so much and not always of a constraint for an open and growing economy, which has adequate exchange surplus for buy food abroad. For the world as a whole, supply demands global availability of adequate supply does not necessarily mean that food would automatically move from countries to surplus to countries of deficits. If the latter lack in purchasing power, the the uneven distributions of hunger, starvations, under or malnutrition etc. at the world levels thus owes itself to be presence of empty pockets, hungry months, overwhelmingly confines to the basics human existence. The issue of worldwide supply. The issue of worldwide supply of foods has been gaining significance in recent times, both because the quantums and the compositions of demand has been undergoing big changes, and because in recent years the capabilities of individual countries to generates interrupted chains of food supply have come under strain. Food productions, marketing, and prices, especially price affordability by the poor in the developing world, have become global issues that need global thinking and global solutions. According to the above passage, which of the following are the fundamental solutions for the world's food security problems? Setting up more agro-based industries, improving the price affordability by the poor, regulating the conditions of marketing, providing food supply subsidy to one and all. Select the correct answer in the code below. Question number 68 answer is B. That means 2 and 3. Improve the price affordability of the poor, regulating the conditions of marketing. So next question is, according to the above passage, the biggest challenge to world agriculture is to find sufficient and for agriculture and to expand food processing industries, to eradicate hunger in underdeveloped countries, to achieve a balance between the productions of foods and non-foods items, to achieve a balance between the demands for and supply of foods. So question number 69 answer is D, to achieve a balance between demands for and supply of foods. Question number 70, according to the above passage, which of the following help in reducing hunger and starvations in the developing countries? balancing demands and supply of food, increasing imports of food, increasing purchasing power of the poor, changing the food consumptions patterns and practices. Let the correct answer is the course given below. So question number 70 answer is C, 1 and 3. 1 and 3. Balancing demands and supply of foods, increasing purchasing power of the poor. Next question is the issue of worldwide supply of foods has gained importance mainly because of overall populations worldwide, sharp decline in the area of food productions, limitations in the capabilities for sustained supply of food. Let the current answer in the course given below. So question number 71 answer is B, 3 only. Inflation's limitations in the capabilities for sustainable supply of food. So thank you. Today our class is over here.